All right. I think everything's operational.
Including the weird sound effects.
Uh-huh. All right. Ready to proceed forward. We have a subject that we'll be exploring later on, but for now, I'm just going to start the whole process. Greetings there, Jersey. How are you doing, sir? Heat wave is ended for now. The old musical number Heat Wave is now coming to mind. Couple weeks of the low 20 Celsius. Dandy. Hey, don't think I'll be around for when you get to Fortnite. Fading fast now. Indeed. Thanks for stopping by, West, and hope that you rest well, if that is indeed what overtakes you. And no problem. Rest well and be stronger because of it. What I'm doing right now is I'm breaking apart the scene. This scene has, what is this? This scene has a lot of parts that are going to become a little hard to try and micromanage. So I'm breaking the scene apart so I have those elements as reusable throughout the animation. Now, if I go back to shot 2, it should still be there. Perfect. And I can start to get rid of the set. And then I import collection instance. Oh, wait a minute. That's right. I haven't named it yet. Grab these. New one, we're going to call this set. When I do joints, they should be closer to the pivot point, not actually anatomically correct. right, for the most part. I find that when you do it more accurate to real life, it fares better. So yeah, I prefer doing things more realistic than not, and then you can tone it back. But some characters don't really work well like that, so it's perfectly fine to go the other way. What's the shortcut for the new collections? M. M is the way to pull up your move to collection. Then you press new collection right here in the middle. A very useful tool. I used to not work with collections a whole lot. And as time has progressed, I'm understanding how important they are. And fortunately, so has Blender. Blender has started to see how useful it is too. And so they have started to integrate more of the collections into how your set is constructed. Are you on Linux now? I always forget. Not yet. I've been choosing what distro I'm going to be going with. So over this month, I've been dedicating time to trying to figure out which version of Linux I want to go to and doing a test run on a laptop before I put it onto the main PC. But at this point, I'm pretty convinced that of the direction I kind of want to go with it. But we will wait and see. That will happen probably at the end of this month or the start of next month. Because I cannot tolerate what Windows is doing with their systems, and this is my way of fighting back against the monstrosity known as Windows or Microsoft. Will you still leave one disk with Windows or go full in? So I have two PCs. One will be Windows and the other one will be Linux. I got a bad feeling that some of the stuff on Linux is not going to work as well as I want it to. They are making Linux faster at a very, very fast pace, but it's not there yet. And so I realize that I'm still going to need Windows 10 so I can at least still have access to some programs until Linux is fully operational. Then, one day, I will be hopefully turning this second PC into a Linux machine too. I want to go all in on Linux, but I do so with a little hesitation. So I spent about between 5 and 7 years getting rid of Adobe from my workflow. Adobe was horrendous. They did a lot of the things that, to their customer base, what Windows is currently doing now to theirs. And I got fed up with Adobe, and there was no good alternative to Adobe. And I was like, well, doesn't matter. We're going to try and figure out how to break free of it. And here we are now. Quite a bit later on, and it is going decent. I'm always, I'm way too competitive of a, wait. I'm way too competitor. Oh, computer illiterate to even try. Yep, that's it. Took me a moment to figure out what you're trying to say there, but I got it. You know, when I was, maybe I told you this story before, but when I was in my, when I was just getting started, I mentioned to some folks that I was getting very frustrated with PCs, and I wanted to learn how PCs worked in order to get better at it. And someone looked at me, a relative looked at me and said, "Oh, that's nice that you want to do that. You'll never be able to." They didn't say it just like that, but basically they came back and said, "You're too dumb to do it." No, you're not like the other cousins. You're not smart. You're not capable of doing that. Leave that to the other more professional members of the family. You can do your funny little art stuff, but don't you dare think about trying to do something challenging. You'll be disappointed. So, in frustration, I decided that, well, even if it takes a long time, I'm going to learn how to do this stuff. And here I am. Years later, I am able to code websites from scratch. I'm able to work with JavaScript programs, and I'm able to now make my own games from scratch. I've also been dabbling with rendering, just ever so basic. So, sometimes you need people to motivate you. Sometimes you need people to discourage you in order to propel you forward. Sometimes you need somebody who encourages, who looks at you and says, that may be a limitation here and now, but it won't always be. And you have that ability to overcome. It all depends. It depends on your personality. It depends on what sort of decisions you're trying to make, what sort of directions you're taking, that sort of stuff. But anyway, I find it kind of ironic that I'm still trying to figure out if it was like supposed to be encouraging in some weird roundabout way, but just the insult of being told that no, you're too dumb to figure this stuff out. That aggravated me, because I've wanted to try and be encouraging of others. Wanted to. I'm not the most encouraging sort of fella in the world. I struggle with that because I kind of get a bit frustrated. And sometimes when I hear other people are having success, I confess it does eat at me a bit, because I think, how did it go so easy for you and wasn't so difficult for me? But it still doesn't mean that I can't still be encouraging to people. It doesn't mean that I can't be trying to help motivate folks. I definitely know that I have the ability to motivate, and sometimes people get a little frustrated with my motivation tactics, because I'm always trying to tell people to kind of find ways to excel and strive to be better. But I don't want to come along and say, oh yeah, you know what? Don't even try to draw. Don't even try to code. Don't try to work with PCs. Don't try to work with cars. You're too stupid to do it. I don't ever want to say that. I'd rather say you have as much potential as you're willing to strive for. We are in a generation right now that does not like to strive. But at the same time, we're in a generation that is been told not to strive just as much. My relative was trying to discourage me, trying to make it so that I did not strive, that I didn't find a way forward. And thankfully, it didn't quite pan out as what could have happened. Rather than discourage me, it propelled me forward. So, let me put it this way. Our world has told each of us, you're too dumb. Your generation's too soft. You're too simple. Let the adults handle the challenges. You're not wise enough. You're not cunning enough. You're going to be tricked. You're going to be fooled. How about instead, we encourage one another and say, you may struggle. You may be tricked. You may stumble. But together we are going to encourage one another to rise back up and to keep pressing on. There's a lot of people that want us to just quit. It's over. Some people call it blackpilling. Some people call it being a pessimist. Having lived under the thumb of discouragement, though, I can definitely say it is just discouragement that we are dealing with in this generation. And that discouragement is overwhelming. It is so very strong. And it is everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. So, it's understandable that people can get disheartened, discouraged. But it doesn't mean that we have to stay that way. We can start to find the ability to recover. We can start to say, you know what? I'm going to prove them wrong. It will take effort, though. A lot of effort. Some people, it's going to take more effort than not. Some people are going to be able to recover quicker than not. But one thing I can definitely guarantee is that each of our story is going to end up being different. And I dare say, when this generation gets looked back on, I think we're going to look back on it as the generation who was told it was all over, that we were the last, that it didn't matter. And we still are going to have to learn to overcome. And hopefully future generations will look back on us and say, they persevered against horrible odds, against a turning economy, against the difficult challenges of the era. Let us not give in to being disheartened. We can get discouraged, but we should do all we can to not get disheartened, because things will get better. It may not be what we want. It may not be the way that we want it. But there is still that chance that things will turn around within our lifetime. And we are going to be able to start to see that start to be fixed. You know, when I was young, I was told by a couple of folks that, well, your generation is not going to have a whole lot of opportunities because everything's been done. Yes, that is something I heard a while back. We made all the inventions in the past. You just have to enjoy. And then we don't even get to enjoy because all that's been taken away from us. But what I've noticed is a lot of things are resetting. You could say a great reset. But it's not the one that I think the elites wanted. I think it's quite the opposite. I think the elites wanted to feel like they were in charge of the reset, and they're learning that's not really the case. What is really going on is there is a renaissance, not a great reset, but we have the ability to have a renaissance. I think there's going to be a conflict. I really do. I don't think it's going to come peacefully, but I think that there will be a moment in our lifetime where we start to finally see the tables turn for the better. It's just going to take patience. It's going to take being what other generations don't believe we're capable of. So what I'm doing right here is I'm trying to figure out roughly what the physics are going to be of this. Now, some people might do an actual simulation. And while I can definitely favor the concept of doing a simulation, it doesn't really work if you're trying to have characters involved. It's very risky, and there's a lot of chances that you're going to actually mess it up. And so that's why I've been trying to do this a little bit more carefully by hand. Doesn't mean that's going to feel more realistic, but hopefully it conveys the message, the story a little bit better. The first time I saw a video of people animating via the graph editor, it was in the early 2000s. I was watching behind the scenes footage, and I saw them working with this thing that, well, first off, I saw them working with a bunch of sliders that had numbers associated with them. And the sliders were pretty clunky. And in order to refine their animation, they would come to the graph editor. And I had no idea what this thing was, nor how to even use it, until I ended up seeing it in a short YouTube video, and it suddenly all made sense. Hey, greetings, Sebastian. How you doing today? Bastion replies with the amazing and important information of, "I'm doing good." You know, it is interesting when you think about it. When we say that things are fine or things are good, I wonder how many times we stop and think, wow, that's actually really good. Things are actually doing great. The reason why I mentioned that is because a couple of days ago, I ended up getting pretty sick. And I was laying on my back and thinking what I wouldn't give for just things to be normal again. And I realized, oh, isn't that fascinating? How you appreciate life more when you are coming out of a trial. Doesn't make it any fun or whatnot, but it is interesting how our appreciation for it starts to change. It's kind of an important thing that as we go through life to make sure that we are maintaining a little bit of that optimistic point of view. And if you know anything about me, you know that I'm not an optimist, nor am I a pessimist. I'm a realist. But there's still something to be said about having some of the joy of things being normal. Wait a second. I got a better idea. So this part is not really working all that well for me. I want instead for it to crash with the floor. So let's come here and do this. After this, we'll animate the worm, but we have to get the platform working before we can do that. Actually, I'm going to work out some. Let's have it yanked back up immediately. And then it comes up to here, and then it floats right around there. Let's see. Okay, you know, I'm going to do something different. It's, where is that? I'm going to actually make some annotations here. I've not done this a whole lot, and I really should. So now it gives me something to kind of match to. So for the sake of it, I'm going to delete these because I wasn't liking how that was turning out. Okay, I forgot about the annotations here. How do I... make it so it lasts for the entire thing? That's why I don't use this tool a whole lot. It is a little frustrating. Well, that was easy. One, two, three, four, five. We're going to animate this on the fives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 4, 5. And then we're going to have this part right here is going to be stretched out a little bit more because of the distance that we're traveling. Oh, that turned out pretty good, actually. Sometimes you just got to delete what you've done and redo it. Oh, golly. That turned out almost exactly how I wanted it to. I said almost. So now we're going to come into the graph editor and figure out why it doesn't feel super smooth. And because of this, look what we can do. You know, smooth it out. This motion will feel a lot more fluid. Needs to hang a little bit more before coming back over there. Okay, so that means it should be relatively easy to fix. Just grab this right here and stretch out a little bit more. Then come right here and stretch out on the x-axis. Yeah, that's much better. And then when it gets up here, it's going to meander. And this is where he's going to look over. Then we'll fix the rest of the string here in a moment. And then he's going to be drawn away. Right now I'm just trying to get rid of any sort of stuttering that happens here. And then adding a little bit of wave-like motion here. By the way, I did increase the size of the outline just so it gets a little bit easier to see. But if you are trying to figure out what is happening here and need the lines to be a little bit thicker, I can make that happen. Because I do realize I spend a lot of time in the graph editor, and that's probably does get a little confusing. All right, now let's get the rest of the fishing line here. So that's now going to come in at this point. Because he is ending up higher than he was earlier, I'm going to have to readjust. You know, I saw something on the news that really is frustrating to see. It has to do with what is going on in New York. And for those that don't know, they have had their communist revolution, you could say. Their prototype communist revolution. Their socialist utopia that they're going to try and turn New York into. And it's not going so well. And I heard some commentators that were analyzing it from a perspective that I would have normally agreed with. But they said it in such a way that just made me frustrated. Frustrated that they didn't understand. Now, I have mentioned beforehand, socialism and communism is dangerous. It is the most destructive ideology that has existed outside of Islam. But there is something very important that we forget. We can drive people to that stuff. Even if we disagree with it, we, in our actions, can push people towards it. And I've noticed a lot of people that claim to be staunchly anti-communist have done nothing to try and fix the problems that spark communism. And one of those examples could be, let's say, for example, because this is part of my world right now, what if you have somebody who is old and who has their retirement home all figured out and all their properties, they're wealthy, they have a ton of money in real estate. And then they look at the next generation and say, "You're just a bunch of slackers. You should work for my homes." Well, there's some truth in that. Our generation needs to work harder. But there's also another thing that's going on. It's embitterment that is happening. It's a desire to try and shame with the sole intent of trying to break someone of something. And I saw a person who was in business, complaining about all the pushes for communism. And I just wanted to reach through the screen and scream at him, "What have you done to try and fix the problem?" See, it's very easy to point the finger and say everyone else is to blame. But what if you are the person that is pushing someone else to a bad decision? In the days of when Soviet Russia came about, it should not have happened. The more I learn about Russia and how its government was functioning, there's no excuse for why it became communist. Except there's one thing. They could have stopped it. The government could have stopped it. They had their elites of the era causing so much anger and frustration, treading upon the lower classes. And there's some pretty interesting documentation that I've read about this. Grinding the heels of the elite class into the lower class. You're going to push that lower class to start to think of extreme solutions. It's not going to be better. I'm golly, like, communism has been so utterly destructive. But what can we, as maybe people that disagree with it, what can we do to help remind people that it is destructive? Well, one, we can be better. Just because you believe that something is not good doesn't mean you're willing to act on that knowledge. Let's think about it like this. Just a second. Let's say you're a business owner. You have a small franchise in New York, and you have your employees show up and they say that they want a raise. What? How dare you? I don't know how to do a good New York accent, so I'm just doing what everyone thinks of as an American accent. What? How dare you? That is just not right. You better be grateful for what I give you, and you better pull yourself up by your bootstraps the way I did. Now, speaking personally, that actually is good motivation. But let's look at it from the perspective of somebody who feels discouraged. They're going to hear that and hear, you don't care. And they're going to start to believe that because you don't care about their financial well-being, the fact that they maybe can't afford a home, maybe that the rent is taking away everything so they can't save up money. And they come up and say, I'm saving everything. Is your first inclination to say, well, you just must not be doing as good as I did? What if they weren't raised the way you were? What if they don't fully understand because their parents were not very good at educating them? Or they were put through a school system that told them to behave in ways that has not been beneficial for them. How do you start to break that cycle of embitterment, of looking at you and suddenly seeing, you know what? All my teachers warned me about you. They said the big evil capitalist is going to try and tread upon us. They're going to take all our money. They're going to basically treat us like slaves. What's communism but another form of slavery? Heck, at least we can get rid of the people that are treading upon us. See how that becomes a problem? I've met a couple of communists. I've had very good discussions with them. I completely disagree with their philosophy. But you know what? I can understand where they're coming from. The TV station I worked at bragged that they fired over 100 people within a year. Bragged. Station manager pulled us together and we were looking around like, wow, this station's getting pretty small. And he's like, I've fired over 100 people this year. Huh, I'm such a good manager. And we're like, that could have been me. That could have been any of us. And then we would be without a job, possibly thrown out of our home because we can't afford rents. So if you're somebody who who believes in capitalism, which is a good thing in my opinion, because there is a lot of reason to believe that that is the best way for a society to flourish. But if you allow for people to be abused and to be taken advantage of, to not be allowed to thrive and grow under their own merit, to not have the ability to save, will you not push them towards evil? And I do say evil because communism is evil. It is a desire to fulfill the fantasy of taking from another person, theft. It's done with the belief that somehow they're doing the right thing, but really isn't the case. I sent that the wrong way. Well, at least I can use that later on. I can grab it from here, move that here, and instead I'm going to grab it and move it the other way. I was talking with an older man about this. He was complaining that nobody was able to work the way that he did. And I do say that mockingly because he didn't really work a whole lot himself, and admitted that he basically lucked out with finances because of the housing situation. He's like, why can't these young people just work the way that I did? And I'm looking around and I'm like, I know the story of that kid over there. He's been working several jobs. He cannot get a better job because he cannot get the education for it. That kid over there is dealing with the problem of too much debt, and so he can't save anything. And then there is that guy over there who is suffering from a series of relational trauma. And so all these people had something that they were dealing with, and he just couldn't see that. And thus, in a way, he was pushing them down the path, you could say, to worse ends. Hey, greetings, Inertia. How are you doing? Oh, the good Jeff is live. Oh, well, I'm glad it's the good Jeff and not the bad Jeff, because we don't want to see the bad Jeff. Anyway, how you doing, Inertia? What has been going on in your life? Evil Jeff.
So evil.
Got fired again. I decided to retire early and become a landlord. Sorry to hear about that. That's tough. I was the first person in my family to be fired. For those who have been around, you know how, and you know that it is part of what got me into streaming. But of course, that was a very tough time frame and no fun. That's one less young person working for society. We were just talking about that earlier, actually. You came in just as I was talking about what happens when we tread upon people and make them disheartened. And this happened to some folks that I knew recently, who made I think, a horrible decision. But it was understandable how they made their decision. But don't work for society. Work for family. Work for friends. Work for your own community. It's not going to make you a whole lot of money, but it will make a bigger difference than you can imagine. You gotta wonder, with all these people, all these companies, they're like, oh, we gotta make our multi-millions. We gotta fire all these people. We gotta make sure that there's no opportunities for people to follow in our footsteps. You gotta wonder if they truly understand their history. History is so important to know. If you don't know history, it's gonna come back and bite you hard. I dare say our elites have not the foggiest clue what history is. Like history, oh yeah, all those pointless dates, all those silly names, all that nonsense about the past. I just care about the present and the future. You could say those businessmen are really, truly
evil.
They're blind to the warning of history. History warns about moments like this. It warns horribly about this. It always happens just before chaos. I'm worried about that because I see a lot of people in my country giving into the chaos, the desire to get even. And it's not going to make anyone better. And that's what's really unfortunate, is that these elites don't see what they're doing. I don't know. We seem to live in an age of hyper optimization. People are less people and more of a cog that can always be replaced once they deem it non-standard anymore. Yeah. I thankfully am working in a job that is not probably going to happen for a while. America is getting nervous. We've had a couple of incidents that have led our elites to start to wake up. They're starting to see the damage they're causing. Some of them are starting to understand they're starting to understand what it means when you force people to how should I put this? When you force people into a corner, they're starting to find out what will happen. I think our elites are going to flee. I really do think so. I think that they were hoping to escape to the Middle East. And then a certain war happened, and now they can't do that. A lot of them were. I remember seeing on social media folks like, I'm moving to Dubai. Oh, they're not there anymore. They suddenly realized what that place is like. They were trying to burn America on their way out. Businesses are different than government agencies. I do believe that. Government agencies still have people that are tied to this nation. Maybe not our politicians, but a lot of people still are closely tied to this nation. Our military is a good example. A lot of our agencies are. They have a direct tie to the nation. They have an interest in seeing it endure. Our businessmen don't. our businesses want to create the singularity so that they can be without those pesky humans. And it's so aggravating to realize that they have no understanding of what that's going to push people to. We are not cogs. We are not replaceable. The AI cannot replace us. Nations will try. Companies will try. But here's the thing. You are not a slave to them. Sure, finance-wise, we need money to live. But there's something even more important. To be able to build up your family and your community. That does not take money. That takes will. That takes a desire to heal and to tend with your own hands without pay. You can build a home out of sticks. You can make a farm from just a few animals. You have that ability to start to reset. You don't have to work for one of those larger companies. But you always should work for those you care about. Those people have the most interest in seeing you thrive. Those are the people that are going to back you and support you when you fall. Not those companies. Not Amazon, who has threatened their employees constantly. Amazon. It's like communism in bottled up. That's what Amazon is. Not truly, but I think of it on like the same level in many ways. I live by one of the maximums that combats the reason for morons to turn to communism. The only good commie is a dead commie. If you have to live under a totalitarian government, better fascism than communism. A lot of people don't seem to understand the difference, but there is a difference. They're both of the same branch, but there is one thing that is always important, and that is to maintain a sense of values and morals. Because regardless of whatever your country is, it doesn't change who you are. It doesn't change what you can do. I mean, sure, legally, but it doesn't change that you have the ability to make it better, to live within it and find a way to make it work. I believe that we fly under 3 flags. Well, technically a 4th, but we're skipping that one for right now. You fly under the flag of your faith, your religion. That is the number one thing that's going to direct you. Second off, you fly under the flag of your family. Now, this family may be direct. It may be your community. But in the end, it is your people, your tribe. And thirdly, it's your nation. The first two can change. Sorry. If the first two change, you are changed. The last one can change, and it doesn't change who you are. It doesn't matter if I'm American, Australian, Japanese. If my values are tied into those first two, I'll be fine. The other one's just a bonus to make sure you have the chance to thrive all the better. Communism is literally just family and society turned government. Sadly, that doesn't work, and they end up using each other's money, making it a cycle, and using other people's money to fix problems. It's a cycle of selfishness, unfortunately. It's one of the reasons why I've had interesting discussions with communists. Some people that are like hardcore communists. And I can still have a good conversation with them. I don't agree with them, like I've said before, but it is interesting. I think a lot of their desire to do good is twisted by people that intend to do harm. A lot of people turn to communism out of, honestly, a good heart, not realizing that human actions are going to destroy that. You cannot have one of those governments without corrupting its people. You keep doing that enough times, congratulations, you somehow mimic an authoritarian regime. Communism never works because of one simple thing. Human nature, exactly. But that's why earlier I said that I don't know what our businessmen or politicians are thinking. We're pushing a lot of our youth to start to think that somehow communism actually could work. And it's foolishness. It's going to get people hurt. But they think somehow they're doing what's right, what's good, because obviously they have they're going to do it for all the right reasons, not all the wrong reasons like past communists have done. They don't realize that the problems are, well, they come with the ideology, and you're not going to be able to escape it. It's what they're discovering in New York right now. It's what they've discovered every time it's been tried, including Alaska. Did you know we actually had a communist town? It lasted for like 5 years, then it basically almost starved itself out of existence. It was capitalism that came in and saved it. But I dare say something else as well. It was strong Christian families. I think that also helped to save them. But in the end, communism failed up here in the far north, and nobody has been able to effectively make it work, thankfully. But it hasn't stopped people from wanting to try. I took a class in school that actually taught the structure of the three main government economic systems: capitalism, communism, and fascism. It was called comparative government. That would have been intriguing to have gotten to listen in on. If you don't know the structure of a system, you can't possibly describe it. Yep, I subscribe to it. Sadly, a lot of people, kind of like what I mentioned earlier, they get discouraged, and many times they'll start to consider options that are not good because they don't know what else to do. They're discouraged. And I think that companies have a lot to answer for. I think a lot of companies are, well, I think that a lot of them know exactly what they're doing. But we're pushing a lot of our youth to consider communism by making it so difficult to live that they just get discouraged. And that's not good. We are creating the scenario which is going to push them to that deadly ideology. But if we did one simple thing to actually understand where their struggle is coming from and to help teach them, help them to escape it, maybe things will change. But I dare say the number one culprit is parents. When I was in school, the number one communists all were taught by their parents. They were not taught by a school system. There's a lot of parents that believe in communism. And it's was really sad because there's one student who bought so deeply into communism. She ended up traveling overseas to a communist country in order to study and help bring it back here to the US. She failed, but you know what? Which I'm glad for, but she wasted a life. Her life was ruined because she was so desperate to pursue this ideology. Devastating stuff. Hey, greetings there, Twiggles. I had to debate, I had a debate, or rather an insight, if the world's countries function as a government, oligarch government without knowing it. Let me see here. I'm misquoting this here. Let me see this again. Oligarchic. Well, that's a bit of a tongue twister for me. As a whole oligarchic government without knowing it. It would probably take quite some time for world leaders to realize we're all in this together, for better or for worse. I dare say a lot of our governments are starting to realize that we're in it for better or for worse. I think some of them really actually are kind of happy with that, which is kind of unfortunate. Oh, rest well, Twiggles. Thanks for stopping by. Anyone who subscribes to communism is stupid to grasp the basics of economics. Plain and simple, it's an ideology of simpletons. But I will defend them in this. A lot of those simpletons could have avoided it. There's some people that are so adamant about pushing it. They find the people that are in doubt, and then they deceive them. I once was told by my teachers that China no longer was communist and that it was becoming a Western government. And they actually had a president and they were having elections. Now, if I did not know about China from both friends and also from military understanding, I might have believed it. I might have looked at China and said, you know what? Yeah, they're not a communist country. But at the same time, they were right. It's not a communist country. It's actually somewhere between fascist and communist. It's in like this weird gray zone between the two of them. It leans more towards the communist for the most part, but it's not a true communist country. And so if you're someone who's in school, you have parents that are pro-communist or socialist, and then you have teachers that are pro-communist or pro-socialist, and then you get out into the workforce and then you can't make a living, you've just pushed them over the edge, making them start to consider maybe communism really is the answer. And I met somebody who did that. He was in a tough bind, and rather than do what I would have done to try and course correct, he bought into communism and said, you know what? Obviously, there's no other option. And I was like, there's always another option. But the problem is that he was pushed to the point of where he became disheartened, discouraged, unable to break free of it. And that's my concern. What happens when you push enough people? You will have created the very thing you wanted to avoid. I remember talking with a relative about this. They were getting frustrated with some of the things that were happening in our government. And they said, how can this possibly be? Nobody believes in this stuff. Well, thing is that given enough time, people will start believing in it. If, especially, the circumstances have pushed them in that place, and they don't have someone to give a counter argument rather than just an insult. If you can help people understand what it is that can help fix the problem, and then walk them through it, especially when they're in the throes of doubt and temptation, maybe you have the ability to stop some of them before they reach that point. I think companies like Amazon are not helping matters either. Or Disney. All these companies are intentionally trying to push us down this path. They're a socialist imperialist regime. They're only a communist in name, I think. For much of it, although a lot of their policies are communist. That's why they're like in this weird zone in between like a fascist dictatorship and a communist regime. They also believe in an Uber race, by the way. If you don't know about this, China believes that the Han Chinese are the Uber race, and all other races are going to have to be eliminated. And they're systematically going through their own people and doing this right now. So yes, it's a weird culture in many ways. The only reason the communists in China haven't collapsed is likely hasn't collapsed like all other communist countries is because of the massive infusion of capitalism over the last few decades. That's the thing, that's why it's like somewhere in that fascism sort of world right now. We, as the West, gave them all the fuel for them to continue. They should have collapsed and confound all those people that decided that they just wanted to give all the money to them and basically create the problem for generations. It's so weird that we are in this time frame where we created the beast, you could say. It was on its last legs, and then we infused it with money and industry. I look at China and it doesn't look like communism. Communism is like a theoretical concept of an egalitarian type of living that is impossible to achieve in our current state of technology. That is technically, you are technically correct. Communism cannot exist outside of like fairy tales. But a lot of their behaviors are very communist. They behave like Soviet Russia in many ways. But in terms of their economy, they don't. That's why it's like this weird combination. And they believe that if they open up and become more Western for their businesses, then they can infuse more money in, and then they can clamp down. It's that we believe that maybe this might be the last bit of that capitalist mindset. Some people think that we are in the stage of seeing China turn into a wartime economy again. And if that happens, then you'll probably see a lot of the horrors of the industrial, their cultural revolution kind of start to return. It's very concerning. But then you have the students, like I said earlier, that are now convinced because they've been tricked. And they are convinced that obviously all these communists that they've been following must have had things correct because a lot of their predictions are coming about, not realizing that the communists that made those predictions are also the same ones that are creating the bad situation to begin with, kind of like New York. They're creating a situation where people are going to become more tempted to become communist. It's so infuriating because I know some of these people living in New York right now that are full-blown communists. And in particular, the ones that knew better. They were told otherwise. And they were like, but I want to be in New York. If they had not gone to New York, they probably wouldn't have become such hardcore communists. Because then all their friends are pro-communists and socialists and whatnot. Infuriating. Not much that can be done. Not much that can be done, though. They have made their choice, and sadly, I think a lot of people are going to have to suffer before they start to understand the consequences. And no, it's not that I want them to suffer, but it's more like I understand that that's kind of what they've bought themselves. They've bought themselves a one-way ticket to trouble, and they're going to have to live with the consequences, and they're not going to learn, as communists tend to do. They make the changes, and then they blame the capitalists for ruining it, which they do have a point. Disney, Amazon, Google, all these companies that are becoming tyrannical are pushing people in this direction. If you had true capitalism, these companies wouldn't exist because the monopoly wouldn't be able to exist. And you can have people actually make a living and working for smaller businesses, taking part in their community, feeling like they're actually contributing. And you also have to get people into families. The more you have people separated from families, the more likely they are to become communists. So frustrating. Karl Marx backed up my claim. I remembered he mentioned that communism cannot exist without capitalism. I think I'm closer to the philosopher's insight and have hit the same bottleneck. Indeed. I believe it was Lenin that mentioned that communism cannot happen without the government forcing them with weapons, which that makes tyranny. So, my only solace is the rejects pushing for communism is the fact that all those that helped the communists into power are always the first to be stood up against the wall. You know what's actually a little concerning is that most of the communists these days are they're the women. There's no way around it. All but two people that I know who are communists or socialists, all but two of them are women. All the others are guys that are trying to course correct. And right now, New York is like prime for people that want to have a society that is, buzzing and happy and like have all the needs taken care of. It lends itself to that. New York will fall, and the rural regions will recover. We don't need the cities. And the cities are going to destroy themselves, and hopefully they leave. But they won't. They'll just find another place to destroy. The reason that I think the mega corporations want to transition to communism is because of the large language models. Yes, they do. They went, oh my God. I mean, just a second. They went,
oh my God, automation communism is possible. Now let's do this.
Because they do sound stupid when they say that. But I did hear Elon Musk basically say that. I'm like, dude, do you not realize you just define like the groundwork of communism? I think he knows. But yeah, all these companies frustrate me. And that's why I'm so against so many of these companies, because I know this is how they're thinking. They don't care. They're like, America's nothing more than a place for them to get rich. They don't realize that, well, people live here and actually want to see their country thrive. I don't want to see my country sold out. I don't want to sell my country out. But these corporations want to sell the country. They see no benefit in keeping things the way that it is. And that is infuriating. How did they get so much power? We let them have it. I think any person who sold a business to one of these bigger corporations and said, well, I got a lot of money out of it. Well, what you've done is you've also prevented anyone else from getting a chance to build and make their own thing. That's one of the reasons why I really do not want to have any of my stuff contribute to one of those companies. But I do believe those companies are one of our biggest opponents in this battle between communist values and, well, national values. They want AI to replace us because then they can bring about their fake utopia. I actually heard someone breaking it apart recently, saying that that is exactly what they're trying to do. They want so desperately to create a world that is basically is at least as close to utopia as they can get. It's one of the reasons why I can't stand VR, because it allows you to put over those glasses, just like in that movie, They Live, and the guy puts on the glasses and he's able to see everything. Instead, it's the reverse. People will put on glasses and they'll see whatever the corporations or the government wants them to see. Oh, you see all that trash over there? Put on the glasses. I just see a bunch of little bunnies playing in a little patch of green grass. They're trying to create a fake world so people don't realize when they destroy it. Aggravating. Okay, let's see here. But that's why I look at all these things and I realize that we are in a place where we have to come to terms with the fact that our companies are against us. They are turning our nation into a communist nation, and they don't care. And I think that we're probably within a couple of years from people saying no more, shut them all down. I'd be all for that. Shut these companies down and let us get back to having local companies. Let's make it so that you can only operate a business within the state that you are operating in. No international, no interstate commerce, except for the most rare exceptions. Sure, will it make the states more independent? Yes, I'm for that. I would rather know that there is a communication group up here in Alaska that has our own social media. And then there is the kind of like the highway system. The government is in charge of interstate commerce. Then you have a platform, a unified platform that you can send your data across so you can access it to other areas. But it's your own state's company, and it is consolidated. It allows for more competition, and you're not being crushed by national corporations. I am so over these large businesses. And I think it's because they are leading us to communism. That I really am convinced of that. They're the ones that sold out our nation to the communist Chinese. They're like, hey, let's go over there and make cheap products. Great. Now they're stronger as a result. Come by again how you're patriotic. They're not. They're not. And the moment they get the chance, they're going to flee to another country without any remorse. Zoom. Whoa. Why is his eyes going up? Oh, yeah, that's right. All right, he blinks, he gets up. Splash. Oh, no, nothing's there. Yawn. And then zoom. Looks over, and then we're on to the next shot. Okay, that's actually pretty decent. You should have made China a territorial province in the 51st state. Yep. I mean, at this rate, the way our companies have treated it, Hong Kong developed nicely. Imagine if it's a countrywide hostile takeover. You know, there was actually talk about here in the West to annex Hong Kong. Britain had that right to not leave, and they watched as thousands of people died. Yes, a lot of people died, and I don't know what the numbers are, but I do know that Hong Kong is not what it used to be, and it is now being exploited. And all the people that used to be Westerners, they should have gone to Taiwan, if anything. They should have gone to Taiwan, and then that would have made China angry, but the people there now suffer. I know people in Hong Kong. Some of them escaped. Others are still stuck there. And I don't know what their fate has been. But I do know a lot of the people that stood up against the Communist Party. I know that they're dead. The death vans are real. They're actually quite disturbing when you learn about them. Imagine you wake up and you hear your neighbor screaming, and you look out the window and you see this white van, a big van. You're like, that's weird. And you see them being placed into there. And then the van drives off. And what's odd to you is that you never see your neighbor again. You're like, what happened? And what you don't know is that neighbor of yours once they got into the van, they were killed, and the van took them to an incinerator, so no one would know that they ever existed. The party comes in and cleans out the house of whatever it was that they were complaining about, and you were none the wiser. Eventually, someone got out the information that these death vans exist, and there was a moment where the CCP actually bragged about it. Thus, it all was verified. And we don't know how many people have died in this way, but that is the modern day extermination techniques that Nazi Germany was doing. And it's happening now in China. Has been happening for a decade plus in particular. It has always been happening, but the sophistication, the methodical, scientific, engineered way of disposing of people has taken a whole new level. It's sick. I can confirm Hong Kong was compromised. What they did to control the power structure was to arrest and move people out and bring troglodytes who support the regime. Yep. It's very discouraging. Now imagine the people that are in New York that are supporting the Communist Party. They don't know anything of that stuff. They don't realize that's like the next stage of the tyranny. It's a shame. They don't know. If you try and reason with them, they have been told to not believe you by all of their friends, their teachers, their family. What is going on with that face there? So weird. Huh. Sorry I hung around in there as long as I could. Going to bounce. Have a good night. Rest well, West. Sleep sound. And hopefully you dream of being in a world with no communists. The U.S. is doing a great job so far securing the border in my country and helping the government body contest the 9-dash line, claimed by the Chinese regime. I've been most impressed. A lot of the nations around the South China Sea are actually holding their own. That's very encouraging to see. And yes, our government is becoming very aware of the danger, and hopefully things go better. But right now, we got some problems right now. And I hate to say it, but right now I feel like a lot of what has happened in the last couple of months has distracted us from the danger. And granted, the Iran situation is technically part of the China problem. I'm not discounting that. But I feel like right now we've wasted a lot of effort in many ways to try and fix things over there when we've only wasted our gear. And China's probably going to exploit that. It's a little concerning to me. It should not have been this way. We should have had a lot more gear, and we should not have put it on full display and used it against Iran in this manner. It still should have been dealt with, but I feel like there was more tactful ways to go about it, because now China is a big threat. And if we don't have all of our gear prepared, well, it makes things a lot harder when they eventually move. What a weird setup for the jaw. For some reason, the communists somehow reached my country and started to contest the Democratic Republic. Well, it's not for some reason. China's been doing that to all sorts of nations. Though they did make some interesting socioeconomic backlash. My people are starting to become xenophobic towards Chinese and other Asian counterparts. Indeed. There's been multiple shootings inside the Senate room. I have a feeling the current government is losing the grasp of power due to systematic corruption. Why do governments have to become so corrupt? That is a very legit question. It's like, do they not understand the role that they have in a society? Do they not understand the importance of maintaining values and dignity? Or have they all just become so power hungry that they don't understand anymore? Do they care at all? There, that's much better. But not entirely. They're not our people. I looked at them and they speak in noodles. Filipinos and Americans use the same alphabet due to colonialism. That's right. Spanish ownership, and then we got it during the Spanish-American War, and then you all became your own nation. Well, it's amazing how many times America has fought over the Philippines. And we're starting to again, you could say. But yeah, no, that's a good point. Other nations manage to put their spies or diplomats into powerful positions, posing as locals. Yeah, a lot of them just do so in the shadows. Africa's dealing with that. A lot of nations in Africa are actually owned by the CCP. Very much so, actually. It's a very big situation. It's like, I know, Africa, full of corruption. Whoop-de-doo. What else is new? But it is a big issue because, well, that means that they are overlooking. They're overlooking the corruption, and nobody is going to try and correct that. And so thus they get all the resources with no pushback. Why is that cheek doing that? Now there was a guy that I've told the story beforehand, but there was a guy that I call the worst spy in the world, or at least the worst spy I've ever seen. He was a Chinese pink. Now, if you don't know what a pink is somebody who wants desperately to be in the Communist Party, but they're being overlooked, and in their attempts, they will tattle on their own people. Very messed up, but that's how they operate. So one day, I saw this guy, the spy, doing an army crawl on the ground. He was making all sorts of noise, and we all knew he was there, and there was no way to get rid of him. He was being faithful to the CCP, but the country did not have any interest in wanting to get rid of such people. They wanted to welcome them because they're just students that are trying to learn the ways of Americans. No, he was there to spy on his fellow countrymen. And he was determined to try and sabotage things. And we caught him doing the sabotaging, and he had no remorse. He's a very messed up man. And I think he probably went back to China and has been destroying his neighborhood just for the fun of it. Messed up man. How do I do this here? Oh, that's not even part of the mouth directly. It's part of this area right here. Okay. By the way, this is why I'm not making why I'm going to be redesigning this guy after this animation, because he is not made for very good work. A lot of problems with him. Tongue is clipping, yep. You have to try and figure out how to deal with that too. Ah, it's so bad looking. I mean, I might have to just refine it when the renders are done. That's how they'd usually do it if they need to correct something and they just can't bother with it. Oh, that helped. That might have fixed it, actually. Oh, mostly. Mostly. But I remember seeing them doing this in Star Wars. They saw a mistake that happened, and they were like, well, let's just fix it in post. We'll have someone go over with a paintbrush and refine it. And it did the job. Okay, just soften that. Bring that back. Yeah, perfect. Okay, wonderful. It now works. And as for the tongue, yes, I do need to get that tongue repositioned, but since it's on the far side, we're not really going to see it. So what we're instead going to do is we're going to instead grab this, and we're going to I kind of like that face right there. That's pretty goofy looking. Okay, so let's key it right there. We have to fix that clipping of the fin. And now we're going to move it back and zero out the rotation. All right, I want to see what this shot looks like. I need to also go through and update the textures for this guy. So we're going to come over here and render out this one right here. But let's turn on motion blur, make sure it's good to go. Okay, see what that looks like. And yes, there's a lot of render bugs. This looks nothing like it's going to when it's all finished. Like those purple eyes, of course, are not going to be the case. That did not turn out very good. I think I'm going to have to probably spend at least 2 streams doing the correction to all the shaders and the lighting, because that looks horrendous. But the goal is not to get that look right now. The goal is to get the motion down. And so as long as the motion looks good, then the final animation will look decent. All right, there's one more area that we need to touch up. And I think, well, let's see here. The goal was to try and refine this shot. And after 2 hours, which is actually a little bit faster than I thought it was going to take, we more or less have that there. And so next, what I need to do is render this out and then put it into the sequence to see how it compares, and then we can move on from there. Oh, what's going on there? That's right. Those need to be keyed along with it. So because it's parented to them, we're going to move them around like this. Would it be hard to leave the line and the hook to the gravity instead of rigging every move, like moon gravity? Oh yeah. So I thought about that, and there was an animation that I did early on when I was just getting started with 3D, and physics-based animation was difficult at the time. It's gotten a lot easier. But there's some things that it can't do. And one of the things is it's very hard to control its location, control how it functions. You can have gravity, but you don't want it for an element like this. You want it for things like the fins. You want it for things like maybe the tail, but you don't want it for an object you have to rig and move around. There is a way to do it like somewhere in the middle where you just animate the hook and then you have the line as a simulation, but that's way too much time and effort to try and do for something so minor. That's why I went with the rigged system, because it more or less gets the job done. It's not perfect, but it does get the concept across. And I've tried simulations in the past, and there's some big problems with it that you don't tend to think about when you are in the process of trying to get an animation done. And I've been foolish enough to kind of lean too much into simulations for things that I shouldn't. The Snowball character is a perfect example of that. He throws a snowball that I wanted to have as simulated. I wanted his snow impacts on the ground to be simulated. And you know what? I could only simulate half of it. The other I had to keyframe. It was really frustrating because if I had just keyframed it, I would have finished it a lot faster. And a couple of years ago, I actually was trying to do the second animation for the Snowball character, and I made the mistake of trying to do simulations. That video crashed and burned. I was unable to finish it. If I had just keyframed it, I would have finished the video. Technically, you could have colliders inside the mouth and stuff, right? Yes, you could. But how far would it go? That's part of the problem. The reason why I chose a fish was because it's actually pretty easy to do physics inside the water. You just have to get the generality of it, and then you can start to basically chalk up differences to like changes in the water currents and things like that. Let's have his head start dozing off a little bit more. It's going to come here and then do this, and then it's going to do that. Space that out a little bit. Wonderful. Okay, I think that's good to go. Let's go over here to Workbench, Renders, and I'm going to update this one. And as it renders, I'm going to go get something to drink. Come on. Go up. Shot 2. This is version 1.1. Oh, actually, this is shot 3. Not bad. Version 1.1. Perfect. Rename this one. All right, save that and start the render. I will be right back. Wow, Eevee renders are really fast. This is, well, maybe for what you're working on, but right now this is Workbench. Workbench is basically the preview window that you have in Blender, but it has a few extra effects in it. It's really good. This allows you to preview things and put it into your timeline very easily. I'm not looking forward to retexturing this guy. Oh, I have a bit of an eye glitch there. So it's like a preview for Cycles, different. It's actually a version of Eevee, but it's really low quality. It's designed for that preview sort of effect, kind of like when you're using the when you were using just the non-shader version in the viewport. It's this sort of version. So it's got like very, very rough materials. Okay, so that's done. In the program Maya, this would be called a play blast. And instead, now we just call them proxy renders or things like that, test renders or previews. So remember how you have the ability over here to have wireframe? You also have, let's go to Cycles again. So you have wireframe, you have viewport shading, you have the rendered version of that, and then you have Cycles. So Cycles is the full-blown render. This is kind of like an Eevee render right now. This is what I just rendered. This right here is just a flat shade version of your window. And until recently, you could not preview this or render this for export. You had to only see this in the viewport. Now you can export this. So this is what we ended up exporting. Going over to video editor, it takes a moment for the change because this is becoming a bigger file than I wanted it to be. All right, so now let's import that. It's going to be right here. So this was the old version. He looks up and then he moves a little bit. And now we're going to be importing the new one in which it has the fish hook associated with it. So notice that there's a bit more clipping in this one, and there's a couple of other bugs that took place. Things like him looking up at the end, his tongue clipping through and whatnot. Okay, let's bring it on in. Image sequence. We want to bring in shot 3. By the way, folks, while we wait for this, if you found anything of merit in today's stream, give a thumbs up. And if you disapproved of it, give a thumbs down. We'll accept both, as long as we know that you were flesh and blood. And if you leave a comment, that would be just as wonderful. But I am not chasing comments. I'm not chasing likes. I'm not chasing subscriptions. That just helps me to know that you're flesh and blood. But in the end, it doesn't really change too much around here. It's not like I'm monetized or anything, but it does give me that knowledge that it wasn't a bot. Which thankfully the bots have disappeared for the most part. For the most part. All right, this is the new one. And he looks up. Wonderful. I wonder what this would look like if we were to see the overlay. What's different? Okay, let's try that. How do I change that actually? You see how they removed thumbs down from shorts. Oh, interesting. I've been told by many people I need to start doing shorts again, but I just don't have the time to do that. See, I was going to actually hire somebody a couple of years back, and it was, didn't pan out because I wasn't making any money out of it. And so I was like, why would I do that? That would just be false hope. And so I didn't bother with it. But also, when I finally did get like some of the first videos out, they just did not do well. So videos will be like 100, next 100%. First they hide the dislike count. Now they remove it completely from shorts. What? Yeah. Where are things going? They're trying to prevent people from getting discouraged and upset. Problem is that then they'll start leaving the platforms. I have been intending to leave YouTube for a long time. I've been intending to leave Twitch. I've been intending to leave Rumble. But the problem is I haven't figured out what that future is going to look like just yet. But I am in the process of trying to still figure out what that's going to look like. And eventually, I should have a plan. Where is this thing? Modifier. But I expect completely that YouTube is probably going to just alienate people. People are going to leave, and they're not going to come back. We already have a lot of people that have decided that they're just done. A lot of people. There's a lot of people that used to watch on Twitch. They don't watch on Twitch anymore. There's a lot of people that used to watch on YouTube. They don't watch on YouTube anymore. A lot of people that used to watch on Rumble, they don't watch anymore. Things have changed, and it's been fascinating to see. But it is something where I can see things are going to get worse. That's why I'm not making any money on this. I made $0 last year in all the streaming. Well, not technically true. I made money, but I wasn't able to withdraw any of it. Absolutely $0 last year. Now, granted, when it came to February, I was able to withdraw, but nothing for last year. Because I make a penny a stream. If that. There's actually a couple streams where I don't actually make anything. That doesn't pay for electricity. But I'm not doing this for the money. And that's the difference. So thus, when I see things change, I'm like, on the platforms, I'm like, whoop-de-doo, doesn't affect me any. I'm still pressing on, doing what I'm doing. No problem. But some people are very scared. They're very nervous. They're like, no, how can I be able to make my money that way? How about you just live life? Do it because you are having fun with it. Don't make the money. Once you start making the money, it all goes downhill. Now, yes, you do have to make money for some bigger projects. And I fully realize that. And I'm trying to figure out how to pull that off. But I don't know how to do that yet. And hopefully, I will be able to figure that out before that time. But some people, they come along and they're like, I just need to grind more. I need to do more hours of streaming. Yeah, that's going to be able to get me all that money. It's like, no, it won't. No, it won't. You have to understand how the industry works. And it is very unfriendly right now. Oh, here's the thing I was looking for. All right, I want to see... where's difference? Here we go. So this is what is different between the two animations. This is an interesting preview because it tells me what has changed. If it was worth it or what other problems there are. So you'll notice there's a couple of changes, including the fish's position. Some of the exaggerations that take place. So it's actually a decent amount of changes, but not too much. Alpha over. Reset that. Okay, so we saved this, and this is we'll come back tomorrow for this. Let's see. Is there something else I can do before that? Let's see. I'm kind of thinking I probably shouldn't do any Fortnite tonight. It's 12 o'clock. It's a little late. I think I'll skip it for tonight. It's fine. All right. So that's been saved. I am now officially on holiday break. So each day I'm intending to do something. And it's mostly going to be animation, but there will be some games with it. But tonight was just animation. We will come back tomorrow and we will put games on it as a priority for that one. Maybe we'll start with the games and then we'll go over to the animation. Any 2D art problem? Windows 11 does not like my tablet. It aggravates me. They want me to upgrade. So I got to figure out what to do. It's an old tablet. I think it was probably what I want to try and do is get it back set up on my old PC. And just use it like that. But right now I can't use it on the new one. When does Windows not aggravate you, says Jess. You're very right, Jess. Windows has been aggravating me for a great many years at this point. And Jess has been here to record it all. I'm kind of worried that one day we're going to find out that Jess has like this giant catalog of all the different people that she knows online and all the and a very thorough record of everything that has happened. Anyway, we're going to call it right there. I'm going to try and get some thumbnails designed for the streams moving forward, and maybe we'll do some of that tomorrow. It's been mentioned before by multiple people that I need to get some better thumbnails. I think it's time to finally start doing that. But we'll also do some more of this tomorrow. So it's going to be, it depends on when I get back. I'm going to be out and about tomorrow for a good portion of it. And I will try to focus on having at least a 4 or 5 hour stream tomorrow. So until then, folks, have a very pleasant evening and morning, everybody. No matter what happens, no matter who aggravates you in this world, be civil to one another. And we will see you all next time. Oh, wait a second. It would probably make it easier if I did. Sometimes I misremember things. Oh, did you design a sprite? No, I didn't. I didn't. I could not think of inspiration today. But next time that they have something like that, I'll have to give that a shot. Of course, the moment I start getting ready to shut down is when the viewership jumps up a substantial amount. But it's fine. We're closing out early tonight because I am whooped. So, anyway, until next time, folks, have a very pleasant evening. Yeah, I may have to do that for fun. A beaver spray. Wait a minute. Come back. That's hilarious. But have to think about that one. All right. Now, good night.